52, and I'll take that's the place.
I Heavenly Father, we consider it a privilege to acknowledge your importance in our lives. We ask that you take the lead in this meeting and allow us to follow you so that you accomplish your will in this organization, this leadership, these students, and this administration. Father, we're so grateful together without fear and hurting someone because of our beliefs. And we want to be an example to everyone that we become. Let us always take the agenda items that are before us to heart so that when we discuss them, we are respectful of one another and we know that we move in the direction that you have us go. Father, we ask these things in your name, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please follow me in honor of the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state under God, one indivisible. That's the way.
We have a quorum present, and this meeting is being recorded. Members of the public may access this meeting through the Central Texas College District website. Item 2 is an opportunity for members of the public to suggest the addition of topics for discussion or to address topics of interest. For the presentation limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone present who would like to address the board? Seeing none, we'll move to item number 3, Chancellor's update.
Really don't have anything, sir. I've had a great graduation ceremony. I watched it all on the video, streaming, I guess it was called. And everybody looked wonderful. Y'all did a great job, thanks to the staff and the deputies. You all pulled that off, Dr. Fisher. So great ceremony. I had a lot of compliments about it. We also had a ceremony. I think most of you attended was the Foundation scholarship event, and I understand that went off like clockwork as well. So thanks to the staff and thanks to Valerie Payson for pulling that together. So, and that was really all I have, sir.
Okay, thank you. Item number 4 is the Industrial Technology Department update. Mr. Bershman.
Good afternoon, Chairman Weaver, CTC Board of Trustees, and Chancellor Nelson. I'm William Kirchner, the Department Chairman and Professor of Diesel and Industrial Technology. I'd like to bring to your attention the Industrial Technology departments and their disciplines. As you can see, we teach automotive mechanics, construction technology, diesel technician, graphics and printing technology, heating and air conditioning, and welding technology. I guess that's how it works. That's how we'll do it. All right, our stackable programs, if you read our automotive mechanics, we have an Associate of Applied Science, 60 hours. Our stackable certificates that built into that is Certificate of Completion Level 2, Certificate of Completion Level 1 Basic Automotive Technician, and Certificate of Completion Level 1 Automotive Specialist. We received guidance by our advisory committee. They tell us what we need to teach, what the industry is looking for, and that's how we receive our certificates. For construction technology, we also have an Associate of Applied Science degree, 60 hours, and we have 3 stackable certificates on that. We have Certificate of Completion Level 2, Certificate of Completion Level 1, Carpentry Trades, Certificate of Completion Level 1 of Construction Trades. For our diesel, we have an Associate of Applied Science, 60 hours. We have 3 stackable certificates as well. We have Certificate of Completion Level 2, Diesel Technician, Certificate of Completion Level 1, Basic Systems Specialist, and and certificate of completion level 1 basic diesel technician. I'd like to emphasize in basic diesel technician, we specialize on all the components of the engine and electrical troubleshooting. So our advisors, that's what they want, that's what they're looking for as technicians to start off, so they can move forward. In our graphics and printing technology, we have an Associate of Applied Science, 60 hours. We have 3 stackable certificates, certificate of completion level 2, certificate of completion level 1, which is graphic designs, and certificate of completion level 1, press operations. Heating and air conditioning. Associate of Applied Science degree, 60 hours, 3 stackable certificates. Certificate of completion level 2, certificate of completion level 1, AC refrigerant technician assistant, and certificate of completion level 1, residential heating and air conditioning refrigeration. And for our welding technology, we have 1 associate's degree of applied science, and we have multiple stackable certificates, as you see. Certificate of completion level 2, welding technology. Certificate of completion level 2, pipe welding. Certificate of completion level 1, farming and ranch. Certificate of completion level 1, structural welding technology. Certificate of completion level 1, industrial welding transition. Certificate of completion level 1, pipe welding. Our enrollments from COVID to now, as you can see in fall 2019, it showed right before the COVID hit, we were at 907 students. Okay, as of fall 21, you can see we went to 526 from 426, which is a 23% increase. Spring, for some reason, is low, but then we go to the spring of 22, which we just finished. We're sitting at 627. And that has just ended at 43% increase. And we're out there talking to students or talking to people, trying to get more and more students involved. And that's what our goal is. And summers, as you can tell, a lot of people go on vacations and they're not here. We're trying to get them summer enrollments. So that's why we're stagnating around our plateaued at 168. We're trying to get more students or more individuals out here during the summertime. Our accreditation and certification, as you can see, we are National Coalition Certification Center at NC3, which last month I was up here asking about a torque certification kit, so we get certified in NC3. Currently, we have already awarded 60 certifications with our PMI precision measuring instruments. And as of last week, we got certified on Snap-on multimeters. There's 11 different multimeters that we are now certified in. And we can teach through aviation, through automotive maintenance, through robotics, through engineering, through diesel. So we're Detroit North America. We're ranked right now 19th out of 299 colleges. And a lot of these colleges are 4-year colleges that specialize in engineering. So we're competing with the big dogs, as you can say. We're doing quite well holding our own. Cummins Virtual College, that is already embedded into our diesel classes. Allison Automatic Transmission, embedded into our diesel classes. Automotive Society of Excellence, that is in our automotive with our Ford technician. Adobe Creative Cloud and Center for Exams, that is in our graphics and printing. Ideal Alliance Color Management Professional, that's in our graphics and printing. Xerox Digital Pathway in our graphics and printing. And National Center of Construction Education Research, NCCER, and that's with our welding and construction. Right here, you see some of the pictures that we have for, we have a Xerox digital production printer so that our students in graphics and printing use the same equipment that they do outside in the civilian world for newspapers, magazine companies, and so forth. In the center there, you see we just received the Bell's laser engraver. Right there, we're practicing, and we're lasering some piece of wood right now with our logo on it. And off the side there, you can see what Bell's laser is. We can do up to a 1/4 inch piece of wood, or we can do glass, metal, flash drives. We're practicing on all that, so it's some people say more into marketing, but no, we're going to get our name out there by putting on, material, you know, whenever we have open house and so forth and so on. We have Snap-on Precision Measuring Instrument, that's a certification kit, like I said, we've already given 80 certificates out on. We have our Snap-on Multimeter Certification Kit, which we just received, and we're certified on as of last week. And we have our Mac 27-inch Edge tool kit, which allows the students to see what is needed in the industry when they start off as an apprentice or as a beginning technician. There is our Vertex 360 Plus blinking welding simulator. This machine is more like a game. You turn around and practice welding on that where you really aren't welding, you're not damaging no equipment, you're not using up any valuable resources, but you practice, it gives you a grade, it tells you what you did right, what you did wrong. It's all robotics, and then you turn around, once you get good, then you move out to weld on real stuff. And that's also, it's a cost saving. Everyone knows with price of metal and transportation and so forth, how we can save money is best as long as we're providing excellent education. And that's what we're doing right there. We're using modern technology to teach everyone learning. That finishes my. Is there any questions? Concerns?
Thank you for upper education, actually teaching people how to do something and skills that we actually need to have the people that we hire to get things done, able to do them.
Thank you.
That's, of course, largely the place of community colleges, but thank you. I assume all of your people are employed rapidly, probably even before they graduate.
Yes, we have to not tell the students of all the people that are wanting to hire them, because you all know if I lose students, if we don't have revenue, I don't get paid. So,
Mr. Liberty likes that.
I'm going to hold on to them as long as I can. I'm dangling the carrot when it's time. I release them. They're out there, they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Very good presentation and interesting. One question, please. In the stackables of welding, does anyone try to complete each one of those that you have? I noticed there.
Yes, sir. We have some students that want to get hired immediately, so they come in and they do the basic, so they get the certificate and get out there and start welding. And we have some students that get one and they like it, really, okay, I'm just gonna make, a living out of this, and then they turn around and go to the next one, 3 years later, they're still here, and then they leave.
Good.
But yes, so it's an enjoyable college, like I say. They come here, they don't want to leave. We spoil them. We're
Good.
trying to kick them out the door, but they just don't want to leave. So.
Well, I'm gonna have to give credit to you then, because you're an interesting speaker, and I'm sure good instructor. They like the program you have.
Thank you.
William, I have a question. On the toolkits, the technicians of tomorrow, they get a toolkit when they graduate and they leave.
Yes.
Is that one of these that you showed that's here?
No, sir. Ford in the Texas workforce, they go to toolbox just for Ford, and when they leave, because they're sponsored by industry out there, and when they leave, then the toolbox is awarded to them and it's shipped to their new employment. So these are not the toolboxes that the Ford technicians are receiving.
Okay.
You need the answer to that, it's just giving you an opportunity, so those that might not know. I have a question. First of all, I want to thank you for the effort that was put into the most recent graduates for the Ford classes for them, for their certification. I was moved by, as we shook hands with them as they went through the line, they talked about where they were going. They are all over the state of Texas. And I could tell from my encounter with some of them that the salaries that they're going to earn because of you and others that help them along the way, it's going to change those young people's lives. Not only their lives, but their children.
Ma'am, I can't take credit for that. That is Mr. Kenny Freeman. He's the instructor. Yes, I'm department chair, so I provide guidance and support, but he's the one, and Dean Dawson is the one that turned around and worked closely with Ford and the Texas workforce to make sure that these students are prepared for employment and that they're successful when they get out there.
When someone gives you a compliment, you're supposed to say, oh, thank you.
Ma'am, well,
But yeah,
I'm not politically correct.
all of you guys work together. All of you guys work together, and it was evident. I've known Kenny Freeman since he was probably 15. So I've known him better. So I know where he comes from. So, but those students were excited about the opportunities before them, and you're gonna change some lives. And I was so proud to be there that night, to celebrate with you guys. So thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Good job, Mr. Cushman. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item number 5 on the agenda is the proposed insurance renewal, property insurance renewal. Any questions?
Good afternoon, Chancellor, Chairman, members of the board. Today, I come to brief you on commercial property insurance coverage for CTC. CTC holds multiple lines of insurance. All policies renew annually on September 1st of each year, except for the commercial property insurance, which this year renews on July 1st. Today, we're requesting the ability to exercise option year 1 for the commercial property insurance. The remainder of the policies will be brought before the board at the July board meeting. Our commercial property insurance is held by affiliate FM Global, managed by BKCW. The agreement will renew on July 1st and will expire on August 31st, 2023, which will provide 14 months of coverage. This is intended to realign the commercial property insurance with the other policies that will renew on September 1st of each year. Background on this policy, it covers, again, our commercial property and terrorism coverage for properties within the United States. And this year's premium is for the 14 months at $316,329. The administration's recommendation is for the approval to renew the contract with BKCW FM Global Affiliate for option year 1 for the commercial property from July 1st, 2022 through August 31st, 2023. At this time, are there any questions?
You know, off the top of your head, the premium, the last year's,
Last year was $250,000, and that was for 12 months.
Any other questions, Mr. Murphy? Thank you, sir. Appreciate the presentation.
Move for approval.
Mark?
Or the workshop. Oh,
We're working.
workshop.
We're working on it. Okay, item number 6 is the lot and running the company's TC contract renewal, Mr. Barton.
this is for the renewal, for lot burning for 21, 22. You have the prices there, so pretty consistent over the years. I continue to be pleased with the services, and I think you're getting a real good price.
Questions, Mr. Barton?
It says renewable, is this sequence, what part of
This
this?
is like the second option here. They'll have 3 more this year.
Thank you, Mr. Barton. Item number 7 is the 5-year tuition increase discussion, Mr. Liberty.
Yes, sir. I provided a handout for y'all. I put it on your desk in front of you there before we sat down. I have 2 things on the same page because I'm a typo and I don't want to print 2 pages when I can fit it all on one. So the tuition increase there starts in the middle. If y'all will remember, last month we actually presented a recommendation to the board for tuition increase starting in the upcoming fall semester. You can see that as the first line on this presentation that I have. It shows the current rate of $100 in district, $124 out of district. We're not making any recommendations to the non-resident rate because it's already at $250, which is the cap that the federal government will pay for a semester credit hour, and 95% or more of our individuals that use that non-resident rate are military related. So if we go over, we're just going to cause more problems than you can imagine because the military has gotten so used to 100%. If we made that rate 251, they would all quit. They're not going to pay it all. Not going to pay it all. It wouldn't happen. We saw that happen. We've seen that happen before, and we know how that worked. We have a hard enough time convince them that that's not those. So that's why you just see your in district and out of district. When we presented this last month, we did it for 1 year specifically, and we did it at a rate which was a $5 increase that we felt was well within reason for the college at the time. It was mirroring cost of living, and it got us to where we were still not at what the state average is, but we were at a rate where we felt like we didn't want there to be too big a burden on the student at one time. As you all know, our enrollments have been declining, and anyone's guess is as good as the next person as to why. We've tried many different things, and we all have ideas as to why that's happening. But we didn't want there to be another burden of an immediate tuition increase all at one time, 4 months ahead of the semester starting for these students. But after the meeting, actually, it was quite a while after the meeting, Ms. Coley said to me, she said, did we raise it enough? And I said, to be honest with you, really didn't raise it enough all at one time. But I said, we're planning on coming back to the board with a multi-year increase because that allows the students plenty of time to know what's happening from the time they start to the time they finish with Central Texas College. Mr. Beebe, I know you'll remember, and General Weaver, you might have been on the board as well at the time. But we did this once before, about 10, 12 years ago. And it was at a similar time where we are now, where we had fallen a little bit behind the state average, because as you know, our goal out here has always been to provide the best education we can at the most affordable price. And by doing that, we had kept the rate low, and then we got to a point to where we really needed to catch up because we were needing to bring those extra dollars in for more fiscal responsibility within the institution. Well, as you see, the proposal that we have in front of you here is to increase the tuition rate 5% a year over the next 5 years. And we went with 5%. The cost of living increase over the last 5 years has averaged 3.59. That's what the average has been. So our recommendation is 5% a year. I know the current year, the last 2 months, we've all watched the news and probably can quote those numbers, a little over 8%, that the cost of living is up. But odds are that it may spike a little more, but this is historical five-year average. So you can see by doing that, by 2028, we'd be at a rate of 132. As I shared with you, the current average in the state is 110 for in-district. By 2028, we're probably going to be, my guess is we're still going to be behind the state average, but we're probably going to be real close because that 110 average is right now. And the meeting we had last month to recommend the tuition increase, probably 45 of the 50 community colleges are going to be doing the same thing. Most of them don't have to do it as early as we do because they don't have the enrollments that we do with the DOT and the requirements that we have to get those ahead of time. So if you notice that far right-hand column, if you take the current rates based upon the most current enrollments, what the estimated revenue we would generate, which is $3.9 million. Now, once again, that's at current enrollment levels. And all of you know that our current enrollment levels are probably 20% down from what I would have considered a current enrollment level 4 or 5 years ago. So if we stay the same, this is the revenue we were generating. But if we start to tick enrollments up 3, 4, 5% a year potentially to get back to where we were, you can only increase that number that we have of 3.9 by whatever that enrollment increase would be. And once again, this allows us to, if you approve this, next week, we will immediately start putting that information out online, new catalogs, we'll have it listed everywhere, so students will know today, hey, there's gonna be an increase August a year from now, August the next year, et cetera. And in the previous years when we did that, it seemed like that was much more palatable to students than them finding out about it 3 months before a semester was gonna start into their second year. And it also helps us plan because we know what those numbers are gonna be. So if I can answer any questions, I'd be more than happy to.
Any questions?
I'm glad that I don't do well with last minute kind of thing. That makes, even though I'm a planner.
Sure.
So I'm happy to see that not only the students, not only are we aware of the increase, this small increases, but the students and their families will be knowledgeable what the future holds. So I'm good.
I applaud the action. However, I'm sure the CPI numbers are wrong, considerably wrong. But I guess we go back and amend this when we see what kind of numbers they come up with next.
Well, you know, I took the 5-year average through last month, but of course that was only 1 month of the sky high numbers. What I'm hoping, sir, is that maybe we can get the economy turned back around, and instead of having continuous months of an 8% increase, we get back to where we're at a flat CPI 1 or 2%. So when you put all those months together, I'm hoping they level out at that 5% number, which is why I put it higher than what it actually was for the last 5 years to give myself a little bit of cushion.
Yes, we all hope that's what's going to happen.
But the nice thing about it is the board can, I mean, we've approved it, we put these in, but you know, the board, if we put it in our catalog every year, the board has the right to make any changes for prices within the catalog as they deem fit. And if we get to a point where 2 years from now, we realize it's not enough, we'll make another recommendation to the board for another increase.
And if
I know what you're going to say.
increase our attendance, I don't know if we want to go back and reduce it, but we have an option.
Correct, absolutely. This can go both directions. You know, I mean, if, in a perfect world, you know, we could see enrollments go up 15, 20% and cost of living fall back down to where it used to be, and we may want to come out and be heroes and announce to the whole, absolutely, announce to the whole world that we're lowering our tuition rate. It's a possibility. Absolutely.
Dream on.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I mean, sounds good though, sir.
It's a noteworthy approach.
I remember the temporary tuition increase we had at A&M when I was a freshman. We went from $25 an hour to $50 a semester. Well, that's just temporary.
Never changed.
You never saw $25 a semester again.
That's largely what blew up the Texas Tomorrow Fund.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, appreciate that very much. And while you're still there, let's go ahead and talk about the investment advisory contract.
Absolutely. You should have had something in your read-ahead packets for the investment advisory contract. We issued an RFQ for investment advisory services. And as you know, the request for qualifications is a two-step process. You ask for qualifications, you review the qualifications. Once you deem the best bid, you then negotiate with that first place bidder on price. If you're happy with the price, make a recommendation to the board. If you're not happy with the price, you can go to the second, et cetera. So we have a contract currently with Hilltop Securities. We've had that contract for quite a few years. Many of you will remember the name First Southwest. They're the same company. There's been a name change and a merger. They've been operating as Hilltop for probably 4 or 5 years now. When that contract expires in August, but we really need to do something now because if there were to be a change, it takes time to make all those changes. You know, part of what we do, you know, they buy bonds for us based upon recommendations that we review in the to investment advisory individuals, Michelle Carter, Dr. Carter and I make those recommendations. Well, when you buy those bonds, it's not like you have them in your safe drawer somewhere, and there's a lot of paperwork that has to be set up with banks for holding. So we really needed to make this happen now to ensure that everything was done timely. So we put the RFQ out. We received 5 qualified bids, which is a fairly good number. Over the last 16, 18 years, we've had anywhere from 6 or 8 to 2 or 3, so that's right in the ballpark of 5. We formed a committee of 4. The committee was Mr. Barton, Dr. Carter, Marcus Gonzalez, who's the director of accounting, and myself. And each of us have something that we do either on a daily basis or semi-annually, annually, semi-regularly with these folks. So each of us has a different part that we play. From Doug, who, when the audit is done, Doug actually does the portion of the audit for lot burning related to investments. So he works with that group to get reports from them, to review transactions. The director of accounting, anytime you make a transaction, he's the one that has to report the transactions, records all the interest, all the payments, all the maturities. Dr. Carter and I, as I shared, we review options and make proposals on the items that we want to buy. And then I deal with them almost on a daily basis to take a look at how our portfolio stacks up, what we're looking at. And then annually, when we write a new investment policy, if we're required to do, I always send them our current policy and I ask them to make any recommendations based upon changes that have happened with the legislature to keep us active. So we had a good group that reviewed these. We all reviewed them independently. I've always liked to do these where, we don't sit in the same room together, everybody take them to your office, review them, and send me where the numbers fall. I am pleased to announce that every single one of us chose the same top bid, and it was the incumbent, which is Hilltop, and we have had Hilltop since 2000. So it's been 22 years that we have had contract with these folks. So the first part was done. We asked them to send the price proposal, and when we did that, I actually talked to Dr. Carter and I said, I'm not going to be surprised when we get this that there's an increase, because as we all know, we just talked about it. Everything is more expensive. I'm pleased to announce they kept their price for the full 4 years of the bid, because it's a 2-year contract with a 2-year option at the same rate. And I'm also going to tell you, as far back as I can remember, they've had the same thing. These guys, they are the premier investment group for public funds, as far as I'm concerned, in the state of Texas. And that's all they did. This group, if you call them personally, Charles, they thank you very much, but we don't deal with your kind of money. We only invest public funds. It makes them experts. One of the individuals who I deal with, who is the managing partner, he actually was involved many, many years ago in writing the Public Funds Investment Act. So he knows what the rules are. And he'll even tell you, I know, you and I have these conversations a lot about, boy, we don't have much leg room and it's kind of hard to do anything. I think if he was there, it would have been even worse if he was involved, because he at least convinced those at the legislature that you got to allow these people at least make a little bit of money. What's the point of doing anything? So they do a great job. They keep us up to date. We have never had an issue. Every year I have to send the audit results as well as some information to the state auditors, and every year our name is on the list of good guys. Not every community college has been on the list of good guys. They let you know who is and who isn't. We've been on the right side of that ledger every year. These guys have our part in that. So, and to share with you what it costs us a year, based upon how big our portfolio is. In the last several years, it's averaged about $15,000 to $18,000. Based upon how much money we have currently in the bond market, it's probably going to be in the $20,000 neighborhood in this fiscal year. And it just swings back and forth. Some years we have more money in bonds than we have in CDs. And as I was sharing with Charles earlier, I'm not married to any of those guys. Whoever's going to offer me the best rates, who I'm going to go with. I like these guys a lot, but if the CDs are offering more than the bonds are, I don't place any money in bonds. So we do the best we can for the college. And these guys go a long way in making that happen. So I don't think I've ever made a recommendation any stronger than the one I make for these guys. They are really good.
Questions of Mr. Liberty? Thank you very much, sir. And let's go to, item number 9 was his proposed budget. And, Mr. Liberty and I discussed some of this stuff. And we've got to make some decisions that impact kind of adversely on our philosophy. And we've got to make sure we're doing the right thing for the right reason. Just a little background. As you all know, KIC is hiring everybody that can. And their starting salaries are beginning to look pretty good to some of our employees. So we've got to protect the interest that we have invested already. One of the hardest things to do in any organization is train somebody up to do what you want them to do, the most efficient way to do it and most cost effective way to do it. Once you get them trained, you shoot yourself in the foot if they voluntarily leave because you haven't treated them right. So we got to keep that in mind as part of this discussion. With that?
Yes, sir. Thank you for that little bit of background. Y'all will remember when we had our first budget workshop. We talked about normally the 8 or 10 items we always talk about, which are the biggest dollar impacts on the college. If you look at last year's audit and you look at salaries and benefits and you take out financial aid expenditures, salaries and benefits amount to 77% of the college's expenses. So most of us knew that. I promise you, Ms. Coley knew, but our employees are our biggest asset out here. You know, we've got great buildings, we've got great facilities, we've got great leadership. But if you don't have the employees to carry out what needs to be done, nothing matters. And to your point, General Weaver, for years, and Jim knows this better than anybody because he was in charge of the Europe operation. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with the deans, and I've been through a bunch of them in the Europe campus. Bob, we get them hired, we get them proficient, and they go to work for Maryland because Maryland pays them more money than we do. And that, I'm afraid, is becoming a bigger problem institutional-wide, not just in the Europe campus. When I presented to you initially, I told you one of the first conversations we had about the budget, it's probably the first one we have every year amongst ourselves, because it's the biggest dollars, is what are we gonna do with salaries? And of course, you know, boss, I'm the tightwad with the purse strings. And I said, sir, while I think and this was before we knew that the cost of living was gonna hit 8.5%. I said, you know, we made a nice increase to pay scales last year. We really took care of our folks. I'd love to do it again, but at current enrollment levels, I can't balance the budget if we get a pay raise. And if you remember, that's what I shared with each of y'all. Not that we were fond of doing it, but that was the best interest of the college. So we had that meeting, and probably 2 weeks went by, and I get to talk about her because she's gone and she's had lunch with us, and we talked her into leaving because her husband's having some medical issues and she needed to be there, which is why I won't be here next week, by the way, because my wife's having something next week. So Holly called me, she said, "Bob, you're gonna hate me." And I said, "Well, no more than normal, Holly. You know, what's going on?" And she said, "I know you told the board we can't get raises." She said, "Bob, we got to do something." She said, "We've got to do something." I said, "Well, you know, I've never been that unreasonable guy out here. I'm firm, but I'm not unreasonable. Stop it." I said, what's going on, Holly? She said, "Well, Bob, you know, you've been on an interview committee recently where we tried to interview an associate dean. We had a really good candidate. And we, you know, what we were going to offer the gentleman to take the job was less than he was making currently working in another college doing a lower level job." And I said, "Yeah, well, I know you have it." I said, "Holly, I hear you. I've got a position that I've had open for over a year that I can't even get applicants for." And she says, "It's hard to get people hired." And she said, "More than that, Bob, people are starting to to look other places for jobs because the pay is better. And this was before the word came out as to what KISD and CCISD both were doing. And Holly, if she was here, I'm speaking for her, but if she was here, she would tell you, she said, Bob, we gotta do something, what can we do? And I said, well, I said, look, we need to get together and talk to the chancellor and Dr. Carter and see if we can come up with some ideas. And Holly said, well, give me a week or two to figure out what we're gonna do. And I said, I don't have that kind of time, we're gonna meet today. So I said, I gotta build a budget. I said, let's go. I said, sorry, you come up with something quick, because I've got to make a phone call. So we started talking about it that day, and both Dr. Carter and the chancellor agreed that we need to do something for our individuals. But the first thing I said was, I said, guys, there's a difference, and all of us know the difference. I said, do we have the financial means to pay an increase? Absolutely. We've got money in the bank, called reserves. Chancellor has got real fond lately to call it rainy day funds, because a lot of people kind of understand that. That's almost where we're at. We are fortunate. I have worked here now. This will be the 33rd financial statements that come out this year when they do. And unless something crazy happens this year, our numbers will have brackets around it. But we've talked about that all year. I think it will be the third time in 33 years that we've had brackets. And they've all been fairly small. So every one of those other years, we've added to that rainy day fund, which is why we've been able to build buildings without having to float bonds. It's amazing when I have to fill out a report for a state agency or a federal report, and you list your debt, and they say, well, you must have made a mistake, you didn't put your debt. I said, I didn't make a mistake, we don't have any debt. We all have equipment? No, we pay for equipment. So we, even with doing that, we have a very large cash reserve. So I said, can we afford to pay it? Sure. But we've got to make sure our board understands, which is what General Weaver was talking about, that we're going to present to you a budget that it will balance, because we're going to take money out of reserves, but when the fiscal year is over, we're going to run at a deficit. So, okay, we kind of got over that hurdle amongst ourselves. I think it was tough on me to try to think I want to present something to say I can't balance the budget, we're going to lose money. But we all got over it. To include the general. Nobody was a big fan of that, but then the problem becomes, as you all know, if you give people a salary increase in this year, you pay for it the next year, and the next year, and the next year. It doesn't stop. And as a reminder, we increased the pay scales last year 8%, and we gave everybody who was eligible for an increase a step increase, which was another 2.5%. And that cost $4 million. And that $4 million doesn't go away. We want to pay, we pay it this year, we're going to pay it next year, we'll keep paying it. So while General Weaver agreed with the need, he said, y'all got to figure out a way to make it work. He's come up with give you another solution. What can you do? And we thought about 2 or 3 things, and none of them seemed to make sense. And we were all kind of scratching our heads. And I'm a weirdo in more ways than one. One of them is I don't sleep a whole lot. I woke up in the middle of the night and I thought, hey, you know what? What about this? Let me run this by and see what they think. So we've put something together here which we think is really unique. It's different. It's creative, but it puts a small long-term burden on the college, which I think is important, but at the same time, it's going to provide for the necessary increases, we all think, to keep our employees that we have and to recruit new employees. So what we're recommending we do is, first of all, we're going to recommend that we don't give a step increase, but we increase these scales, salary scale for the full-time faculty, salaried employees, and hourly employees by 2.5%. That is the only thing that we're recommending that we're going to put in the budget that will cost the college in future years. That's $900,000, pretty much standard of what we have done 75% of the years that I've worked at the college, which is a 1-step increase. For years, that kept us up with cost of living and actually gave our folks a raise, because if you only go cost of living, you're not any better than you were, but at least you maintain. And for years that worked for us. Now it's not working because the cost of living is moving so fast. We all know what's happening to prices and where things are going. So that would cost the institution $974,000. And not only does it provide everybody that one step increase, 2.5% increase, it makes those starting levels and the hiring levels for new employees a little bit higher than it does today. It doesn't get as high as CAISD and Copper's Cove, but in the long run, we're a much better place to work. That's why most of us stay here for so long. But we still know that it's not enough. So here's where the creative part comes in. How about we pay bonus to our employees? You know, we paid bonuses before. We have performance bonuses that we paid, but this is actually, and we, you know, in the title here, it's a retention incentive that we're looking to pay to our employees. And basically, the recommendation is to pay an 8% retention incentive to all employees that were hired in the current fiscal year. If you worked here the entire fiscal year, it's 8%. If you worked here less than a year, it's 6%. And we recommend paying it at 2 intervals. So you have to be here, you'll get one in September, and then we'll award another one in February. So people, you know, we're not just gonna write everybody a bunch of checks and then they can go somewhere else. It's an incentive to show them that we know you're important, we know how hard it is for everybody, we know where everybody's finances are, and it gets those salaries and those dollar amounts, if you add that to your salary, it gets us to where we are very competitive with KISD and CCISD, but it doesn't burden the college for years in the future because it's a one-time payment. Now, who knows where we're going to be a year from now? We may have seen 12 months in a row of 8.5%, and then we'll all be pulling our hair out. But hopefully, it's flattened out by then, and we don't have to do anything as drastic again, and we can just go with our standard. If you've been a good employee, you get a step increase, and that's going to be close to the cost of living and give you a little raise, and we've already leveled our salaries out. Holly feels, and I'm speaking for Holly now, she thinks those additional dollars will, because she hears it more than I do. You know, I'm pretty lucky. My folks are pretty loyal. It's not me. I don't know why, but I don't have a lot of turnover, and they're happy. But here lately, I've had more than one of them come to me and say, "Hey, Bob, you got any ideas? Is there any way that we can do something and get a few more dollars? Because, you know, I can go X, Y, Z, and it might save me a few, you know, I'll make a few extra dollars." You know, I remind them how wonderful leadership is out here and how great it is to work for the supervisors that they work for. And most of them, you know, I've had a few leave. Some are staying, but Holly says, "Bob, I get calls every day. People that I know are leaving, they're looking for jobs. You know, they get confirmation calls, as you well know, when someone applies for a job to verify service and those things." And Holly says, "Bob, the numbers are incredible." You know, we talked about this, and Mr. Beebe, you're well aware of this. Years ago, we put a clerk level job on the board. We did 100 applicants. I mean, we had to cut it off because we got so many applicants. We put them on the board now, sir, and we might go 3 months and not get an applicant. So we've got to do something. So in conjunction with that, for our current employees, we want to have a hiring incentive. And what we want to do is we would offer a job to a person when they become a candidate. We would put them on the scale where they fall on the scale, which is going to be 2.5% higher than what the current scale is, which should help a little bit. But then we're also going to offer them a 6% hiring incentive. So 6% from whatever that salary would be, we're going to offer them. You have heard it as a sign-on bonus, but once again, we like the words hiring incentive a little bit better. And we were going to have the requirement would be that when you come off of your training status, you get half of it. And then after you work another 4 months, you get the other half of it. So you don't, because we've heard all of our stories of people getting that 4-month sign bonus and disappearing. We're going to spread it on. If we can keep them 8 months, they'll realize how wonderful we are and they'll like to stay again. You know, once again, our benefits, listen, I talk to anybody about benefit, even my son who up and coming in the business world, and he's like, Dad, it's unfair how well y'all's done it, how good you do. And I said, son, that's why we stay where we are, we're a state institution. But even we all have noticed how good those benefits are. If we don't do something with the salary, we can't get people in, and benefits only go so far.
Speaking about benefits.
Yes, sir.
These raises in compensation, bonuses, or whatever they call it, how much is that going to affect also our costs of benefits?
Well, the only thing that has a significant increase, the 2.5% that we're going to change the pay scale, that includes benefits, and that number is actually in the number that I calculated. And of the 974,000, 127,000 of that becomes benefits. But then the retention incentive that we pay to current employees, the bonus, the benefits on that number, that because it's paid as, we call it an incentive, but the IRS considers it a bonus, not regular pay, we don't have to pay all of our benefits on that. The only benefit we have to pay is our own pension plan. We don't have to pay any other benefits on that. The retention incentive for the higher on one, we don't pay anything on because none of them are eligible for a full year for our own pension plan. So there's a no cost to that. So when I shared that the only piece that really is a continuing expense forever is related to that 2.5. So the total price tag on this is almost mirrored, what it was last year of $3.9 million. However, the only part that will ever flow to a future year is the 974,000, 2.5% increase to the scales. I don't know how Holly's been able to get as many people to come to work as she has, but when any of those people see what they can get in different places. And then, you look at the starting pay for the ISD, the starting pay for some of those employees, and it's significantly higher right now than our starting pay is for some of our starting teachers. And it's just, we don't want to be at a point to where we can't provide the service, or even worse, have to cancel classes because we can't get instructors. So we think this will solve that. We have the funds in reserves that will cover this. So when you see the budget looks like it balances because I've got a pot of money to take it from. But when we prepare the financial statements for next fiscal year, they're going to have brackets around unless something great happens and our enrollments go back to where they were 5 or 6 years ago.
Another question. You used the phrase to keep good employees.
Yes, sir.
Anything built into this evaluation process where we can identify the methodology we use to determine what a good employee?
Well, something we've done for quite a few years out here, sir, is you have to have satisfactory performance to get any increase at all. And every year there are employees that don't meet that level, and they get on performance improvement plans. And the performance improvement plan not only prevents them from getting an increase, but it also puts stair-step dates of when improvement has to be made, and it's delineated to, you've got to be able to do X, Y, Z by this date. And if that doesn't happen, it's called for termination. These new employees, as I said, training period is important. You have 4 months when you first come to work at CTC to pass the training. You're under training status. If you're not at that level that is considered sufficient, you don't come off training class status and your employment is terminated. So we already do quite a few things to try to ensure that we have quality employees. Yes,
So 8% is a lot.
it is.
And what I would like to see is there any way we can put some clawback provisions in there? I mean, you're talking about a hiring bonus and for lack of better terms, reenlistment bonus or retention and stuff. But that's a lot of money going out the door, and that doesn't keep people from just, like you said, popping smoke, that's my term, and then leaving. And then we're out that money here at the college. I mean, you can look at it as an investment, but I'd hate to see a failed investment.
I understand. We talked about that. You know, it is a possibility. You know, the discussion first came up, you know, I'm always thinking, okay, how could we make sure 100%? Well, let's not pay it until the last month of the year. So you worked your whole year and then we'll pay for you. The problem with that is that now we got people suffering through that whole year that don't have the funds to keep up with the cost of living increases in the country. And even here, I mean, holy moly, I mean, I pumped gas two days in a row after driving to the Metroplex and back, and with the same amount of gas in my car, and it was $6 more the second day than it was
Well, that's like how the Army does it. You don't get your enlistment bonus.
I wish the Army was as good fiscally as we are, sir. They all follow us.
I know, they're all broke, they're dead broke, but they don't pay their enlistment bonuses until you hit that milestone. I mean, but if you pay it prior to, you just set yourself up.
Well, that's
We
why.
just gotta protect.
That's why we broke it up into 2 years. Are we gonna have some folks that'll get their second check and say, I'm leaving next month? Sure, it's gonna happen.
I heard some discussion, maybe at KSD, doesn't matter who, that there was a built-in plan that get the first check, and you don't last to the time of the second check. Your last paycheck recoups that first month. That's a little too complicated.
And I would hate to see the same environment where, I hate to reference Michigan, but you know, the automakers, they used to, 1 year Ford would negotiate with the unions to get a pay raise. Then the next year, they would go to GM and the pay raise, the same thing is happening here. You go clean and code, then you go to CTC, then you go back to clean, code, CTC. Our budgets keep going up. We have homeowners that keep complaining about paying taxes.
Absolutely.
So we can only dip into our reserves so much.
Correct.
And taxpayers come first. We have to protect the taxpayers.
And you notice I didn't mention anything about tax increase, and we discussed it.
You know where I stand on that.
And you know what, I've never, I mean, once again, 30 some odd years out here, we've increased taxes, I think, one time, where we've gone above what is now called the no new revenue rate. Normally, we will always go to the no new revenue rate. I don't, it's hard for me in one sentence to say everybody's having a hard time and we need to figure out how to pay our folks more because A, they deserve it, it's costing them more everywhere, we're gonna lose them. And then on the other side of my mouth, I say, well, let's raise taxes so we can pay for that. I'm not gonna do that. I told the chancellor, I said, sir, you know, if you wanna present that, you can, I will do it. Because I didn't feel it was fair to people. And even if we, you know, if you take a look at how small our tax revenue is anyways, and you know, these are big numbers, but when you talk in the scheme of things, if we went up to the max we could raise our taxes by and didn't have to have an election, we're only gonna generate $900,000 of additional revenue. And for the taxpayers to know what you're, you know, how do you tell this mom and dad, send your kid to school out here when I've told you I don't care, I'm gonna increase your taxes? You know, it's kind of a double-edged sword. So I completely understand what you're saying, sir. We all did discuss the fact that we may have people take a piece of it and then leave, but that's why we split it up in two pots. We may have some, but I'm almost gonna tell you, and I will tell everyone of them when they leave, we probably didn't want you anyway, so. And you know me, I'll look it right in the eye, though.
Can I just make a comment? That's a chance you take, no matter when you bring a new employee on. But some responsibility rests with that supervisor to nurture, know whether that person is a fit after that 4th month. So there are no guarantees that anybody's gonna come and stay with us until death do us part. But when we enter, the leader has a responsibility during the interviewing process to be astute enough to engage with that employee to see if there might be a fit with the rest of the team. And I hope that somebody's talking to these people in these leadership positions so that if they don't know how to do that, they ask for help in doing that. But that relationship starts from the interview. So everybody runs that risk. And you will have people that leave. I spent 30 years trying to make an organization look good for people to stay, and they didn't all love us, and they don't all love us either. But I think leaders have a responsibility to connect with that employee, that new hire, to see if they're a fit, not only just for that job, but to bring them into their team. And you know what? Who's going to tell you whether they're a fit or not? The one doing his or her job over here next to them, that see that they're on competent. So, it's just a chance we take, and we have to do something. And I can only speak for myself. I've learned to trust you, Dr. Carter, and all the people involved to come to us with a reasonable recommendation for me to think about, pray about, and come to a conclusion for the next meeting. But you got to try something. It's not working the way it is, so you got to try something. I have a request. I don't know if this is the time or if you and I should be talking, and I can do this project privately, but here it goes. There are some employees that work for us that fill part-time positions because we hired them to do a part-time position. Those people are valuable too. I want to see us do something to acknowledge their value to us. They may want a full-time job, but there is not one that they can move to. I'm not talking about the person that came to us and said, I only want to work part-time. I want to work this day, that day, whatever. We're not meeting their needs. I'm hoping that we have a process or the technology to help us identify the positions that were part-time and we only needed a part-time person. Because they're giving us, they're allowing us to accomplish the mission without having to pay them the additional monies and the benefits. And they deserve some type of.
I will share with you a couple of things. I'll share some of my personal experience as well as a little something about the scales and the way they work. If I have a full-time clerk and then I also need a part-time clerk and they do the same jobs, they get paid the same. The scales are exactly the same. The benefits are different, but the scales are the same. And then from a personal standpoint, I have, the only part-time employees I have are in my business office. We don't have as many people that show up face-to-face and pay like everything in the old days. Everything you pay for was face-to-face out here. Now it's only during registration where we still have some people that want to do it right in front of you that want to go online and do it. So I have some part-time cashiers. I've got about 4 or 5 of them that have been loyal part-time cashiers for 10 or 15 years. And just recently I had a full-time cashier take another job. And I said, great. I said, I called the supervisor in that area. I said, hey, which one of your part-timers really want this job? And he said, no, they all like being part-time. So we do have some that want that. Now, what we do, and if I put a little beat to it, I can say that if you want me to. But we do provide, most of our jobs, we open up internally first. And if you apply for it as a part-timer, you still have the option to apply for that full-time job prior to someone from the outside applying for that job. You don't have to be full-time to apply, you just have to be a current employee. So they do have that piece of a benefit to have the option to move full-time when needed.
But I'm talking about a specific group because I've seen them get lost in previous lives, my life, where we hired them part-time. They are doing an outstanding job. We couldn't get anyone else to fill that part-time job. I just believe that we can't, I don't want to see us, and maybe I'll be fighting discussing this until I leave the board. But I would like for us to identify a way to reward them. I don't care. I don't have a magic number. I don't know that there's a percentage I would identify. But some means it could be $100, $200 bonus. I mean, whatever it is, but there has to be a small number of people that fill that job that most people wouldn't want to work part-time. And I know they exist. We just have to find out who they are. And I personally would like to know that they exist. And I'd like to hear your suggestion about what is something you.
Absolutely, and what I will do is I'll get the expert on that, which is Holly, to come up with that and do it. You know, I know our number of part-timers has decreased along the years, just because as things have changed, there's most people really need more than part-time, so we don't have a lot of them.
Right, and I know that. I know that.
But,
And believe me, if there were hundreds of them, I probably wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right.
But I know that there are some.
Okay, I'll have Ms. Jordan listen to this, so she knows what you're looking for, and then don't be surprised when she reaches out to you and make sure you know what she wants to do. Okay. But I appreciate your comments on almost, you almost have to take a chance. You take a chance with every person you hire. You know, when you look into what it costs to hire and train somebody, nobody wants to do it multiple times. Like I said, I have been so fortunate. There has not been a lot of turnover in my division for the past 30 years. If Dr. Welch was here, she would give me a stick in the ribs because she's like, how do you keep your folks around? But that's just between me and John. I don't to harass her, but we all know the huge investment that it is. So we are careful. I know that when I'm involved in a hiring committee that's my committee, I make sure that when someone is interviewing, I have everyone in the room. I don't only tell them what they do, tell them how long they've been in college. Because I don't put anybody on my committees that have worked in college for 18 or 20 years. So this person, their eyes keep getting bigger and bigger when I say, well, I'm kind of the newbie. I've only been here 30. Sure, how many years have you been here? 42. So.
That's good and bad.
Well, there's pluses and minuses. I know where all the skeletons are buried, but people know that there's a reason why to work in this place when you've been here a long time. And for years it was our benefits, but now we're to the point where people aren't looking at that benefit near as hard as they're working at how much money I'm putting in my checkbook and can I pay for my gas.
That's a generational thing.
It is, sir. It is, sir. But which is why, I call it forced retirement, because when you come to work here, you don't have a choice. You're gonna be in QPP whether you want to or not. And you're either gonna be in TRS or ORP as a full-time employee, whether you want to or not. And I can even tell you, I remember that very first paycheck I got, because you're here a year before you become a member of the pension plan. And my first paycheck I got when I was a member of the pension plan was smaller than what I've been getting every other month before. And I'm like, I remember even telling my wife, listen, I don't know what we're gonna do. I can tell you right now, if all those dollars were paid to Bob over the last 30 some odd years, I may have 2 or 3 boats, but I wouldn't have any money. So, I'm glad that the college does it, as we all are. And every one of our employees, when they leave here, I promise you, they're glad. So, we just feel that this, while it is expensive, we are glad that we have those 30 some odd years of putting money in the bank. We feel we can bite the bullet and have a losing year, knowing going up front, we're gonna have a losing year. But we feel that that's the only way we're gonna continue to be successful, because we just, I wish Holly was here to tell you, she just sees the numbers just completely dwindling to nothing. And we've already got folks, every one of us here in this room right now have folks that are doing multiple jobs because we have open positions. And eventually those folks burn out. We gotta do something.
Any other questions, Mr. Luther? I'm glad you've done a super job with this, and I just, for the board's edification, one of the things that we talked about at our meeting, I feel very strong about this, is I don't have any problem in spending the interest that we've earned. And if we apply that interest earned to this debt that we're fixing to bank on, it kind of washes. And it's really something that we can afford without any permanent damage right Now, can we do this forever? Probably not.
Some of us won't be here forever.
But for right now, if the saving grace is, we do have that interest that's gonna be paid to us. And if we understand that that's what we're talking about spending. We'll be all right, I think, for at least this term around. Now, what happens next year? It all depends. Like I told Bob, what happens in November. That's their key. So we're doing the best we can, but we got to take care of our people. And if that costs us a little money, right now, it'll be worth it in the long term.
You know, no matter how smart all of us are and how good of things we put in place, if we don't have the folks that really do the work, doesn't matter how good the plan can be.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your hard work. Our next item on the agenda is recommending for topics for upcoming agenda items or announcements from the board. You want to start with Ms. Corey?
This, that's always President Jordan, gave me, the evaluations for each of us, your names are on, so I have them. So just make sure that you.
Want to pass those through?
Yeah.
This is the annual evaluation. We know it's coming up. Audrey needs to get those back
She wrote the date. for the
next
return.
month. Because
She wrote the return date.
of
It
the
is the
return date.
21st. It's inside your folder.
We have to have it on file, ready to go in July, for Saks looks at this stuff. It's our job to evaluate our employees, which is the auditor and the
But no, that's all.
I'd just like to say a special thank you to Dr. Kraft for attending our graduation with his bum hand, and he still managed to shake hands with every student.
As it should
Pass. The only thing, mine's personal, I just wanted to, since we recorded this, say congratulations to my daughter for graduating college last week. It's a major accomplishment as well. So thank you very much, Rich.
I've got to say that the graduation, that's what we're all here for, was excellent, and everybody did a great job. And I've got to give a little thanks and appreciation to Mr. Anopoulos for having everything in place that it went off well. And so, thank you, Mr. Anopoulos, and thank all of you very much.
Great staff, great senior leadership.
If there's no other information to discuss or pass on, we stand adjourned.
All right.